Thank you to start off with. Good to see so many people online. So we're just going to talk to you about our role as the Expert by Experience Consultation Group. So my name's Sam Prowse, and I chair the group and co-chair our steering group. So who are we? So feel free to chip in, Gary, Kirsty and Bertan. So a group of people with learning disabilities who are paid for their time, really important. So the group offer help and support to researchers. So Gary, can I ask you to introduce yourself? Oh, you're on mute. Let's do that. Can you?
It always happens to me. Thank you. My name's Gary Bourlet. I'm the founder of Learning Disability England, and I'm a membership engagement lead for that, and also founder of the People First movement since back in 1984, and part of the Expert by Experience Consultation Group as well.
Thank you, Gary. That's great. Kirsty, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all. My name is Kirsty Warrack. I am an expert by experience within the Herts County Council. I also attend the Learning Disability Consultation Board.
Thank you, Kirsty. And Bertan's asked me to introduce himself. Bertan is a member of our group, and he also helped out in a number of other research projects. I would also like to just acknowledge we've had previous members on our group who, because our research started in the pandemic, so it was good to get lots of people, and as the world opened up, opportunities that they wanted to be doing opened up to, so they can stay committed as a part of the group, but really important to acknowledge that. Silvana, if you're okay to go on to the next slide, please. Okay, so we talk about a wide range of different things in our meetings, but it's about how the project is working, the tools and the information around the project, and how to share findings. We've had some really great ideas. Kirsty, thinking about your tour bus, but the main thing about making sure that information is easy to understand. Kirsty, did you want to talk about, you know, in our last meeting when we watched some of the animations? Like,
yeah,
just...
okay. So yeah, because so it's so important to get all kinds of ways to communicate, because I myself got a speaking permit and videos, it's and my son is right then, and my son is,
yeah, you're doing well.
So because I got a speaking permit, it's so hard for people to understand me. So we come up with a animation video. So if people can't understand, they can read your lips. They get what you're saying. I think it's so important to people who can't talk can explain themselves in the video.
Thank you, Kirsty. That's brilliant. If we go on to the next slide, if that's okay, Silvana. So some of the things we've talked about include about equality and diversity. I think that it's really important in all aspects of life and research, because people have different stories, different backgrounds, can mean different things, and that's been important in the group. Bertan, are you okay if I say about, you know, when we talked about if we did an animation, the importance of having someone in there that looked like yourself, because that's a big part of you, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's really important. Thank you, because I think that from the work I've done across the country, here it is really interesting, because obviously different backgrounds mean different things, and the inequalities that people face. So I think that's really important to think about. And then Kirsty and Gary, we were talking about how to get other people to become experts by experience and to help researchers. Is there anything you wanted to add on that?
I can go. It's so important to have many people who got a learning disability to have their voice. It's not always easy to get people to some people are too shy to come and join it, but it's so important to hear a wide range of people for older and for younger people to get involved, to express what their views about making positive moves are.
Brilliant, thank you, Kirsty. And Gary, you look like you were going to say something there.
Yeah, I was going to say something. I was going to say it's important that people like expert by experience who are researchers should be paid for their time and paid a proper wage, and you know, for keeping going, and also to include people. We talked about diversity, but people whose language isn't English, for instance, with a learning disability.
Thank you, Gary. That's really great. If we can go on to the next slide, Silvana. Thank you. Okay, so it almost links back to a lot of the other points that we've talked about before, but actually research needs to be quite exciting to read. You don't want research, you've got academic research that happens, but it's important that it's accessible. So we've talked about different ways of doing it. One of our previous members on the group was very big into art, and I'm sure we will be going back and asking if they can potentially give us a hand to think about those kind of things. And then touching upon thinking about how things work in terms of different learning styles. So some people are quite visual. We watched in our last steering in our group, we watched a couple of animations just to give them a bit of a comparison next to each other. So we had one that was quite just all in one tone, and then we had a different animation from a different organization, so that it had multiple voices on there, but within those voices you heard a lot of passion, and that makes a big difference. Is there anything you wanted to add on there, Kirsty or Gary or Bertan?
No, yeah, I will. It's very important to get, it's important to get everyone's perspective, but I also think when we are doing a video, take into consideration BSL and people who can't see. It's always it was checking if you do a research on video to take in all the everything.
Brilliant. That's really good. Anything from you, Gary?
The idea of art and conferences, videos, and animation are one ways of helping people with a learning disability, autism, to communicate. Art is a communication tool, and you can add music to this as well, into that list as well, and
Absolutely.
drama and theatre sort of thing as well. They're all different ways of helping people to express, and it also is fun. It's much fun for people, and
Yeah.
it is also there's a lot of emotion for people to talk about their stories, because there's a lot of hurt and pain and gone into their stories, because everything in the past may have not been good. So we want to make life better for people with learning disabilities and autism.
Thank you, Gary. That really links into that point below. So as a group, we've talked about like thanking people for taking part in the research, and that really is important. People have often told their stories multiple times, and that can become quite hard. And actually, it's about recognizing that and thanking people, because you're opening up a potentially can of worms, emotions that are quite hard.
Yeah.
If we can
I
go
was
on
going
to the next slide.
say that people should be, awarded for their time, just a bit like what the last presentation said about awarding people for their support and their time.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, if we go on to the next slide. So we meet up every 3 months, and we do it about a week before the steering group, so that we've got good information to pass on to the steering group, which I co-chair. And then we've had a one joint steering meeting recently, and it was pretty good. Unfortunately, you couldn't make it, Gary, but Kirsty and Bertan, have you got anything that you'd like to say how that steering group went?
Yeah, I think it was good because we get to join up with other people. It's what's good about being online is because we can link up with different council, different boroughs of the council. We can sort of bounce off their ideas and get new ideas.
Thank you.
What to do.
Yeah, definitely. And there was some really good feedback from the steering group as well, how they found it as well, and very keen to do another one, which is really good. And I think a really good point here as well is people in the group have got busy lives outside of this project. So really important to remember that. So just thinking about being online, Kirsty touched upon it there, which was really good about being able to connect up to a wide range. We've got I'm in Hertfordshire, you're in Hertfordshire, Kirsty, but the another part of Hertfordshire, Gary, you're in Kent, aren't you?
That's right.
And Bertan's in London. So it's quite a group to get everyone together would be physically quite hard. But equally, being online has its challenges. Just the other day when we were planning this and we came together, my internet connection was very, very poor that day. I kept being cut out, so luckily the group was very good, and Silvana helped out, which is really great, and I managed to get in on the phone on the end. First time I've linked going on Zoom on the phone. If we go on to the next slide, if that's okay. Okay, so future things that what we're planning about is how to carry out doing research together, learning from this experience. We talked about that previously, about joining up with the steering group again. And then I think something that's really important, and the group has said, and we know, is how to link up with other research projects. There's often projects that are very relatable, and that's why you can see that from the conversations we've had today about the other projects that we've had, that they're very interlinked, and it's important because that whole point about not telling that same story again, sometimes you just have to listen to the bits of the story that really works well for you, but being respectful at the same time for that. And then I think if we can go on to the next slide. Okay, so Gary, did you want to talk about this in the next slide about the communication?
Yes, as I said earlier, there are different ways of communicating, like through art and drama and music, and making sure that other people have be able to speak in their own language, because English may not be their first language, and also using sign language like BSL and Makaton. There are all types of other ways of speaking, and also sharing that with this research with other research groups. I'm a part of 6 other research groups around the country. So, and I do a bit with the Open University.
Brilliant.
So, and also with Leeds University and North Herts, Southampton, and also University of Manchester.
So, yeah, there's a lot of learning, isn't there, that can go across, and that's why it's great.
And I actually get confused which one does what.
Yeah, I can imagine. So the literally last point from us is we're actually presenting at the Open University Social History of Learning Disability Conference in July. So that's on July the 11th, and their theme is about community now and in the past, and that feels like very relevant to our research. The stories we've heard about people and where they are now from where they've been, and that's really important to remember those things and share these things out so we can learn and prevent things like this happening in the future. I think that's it from myself. If